And we are live. My name is Andy Green with Green Group Real Estate at Keller Williams Realty Professionals. And I am joined, as always, by Annie Ransom with All Pacific Mortgage. Say hello to our viewers out there, Annie.
Hello. I missed everybody last week. So happy to be back.
What'd you do? Did you have fun?
I did. I went hiking, just had a disconnect day. It was great.
We all need those. So congratulations on making the time. It's called self-care. It is called self-care. So good job. Well, let's get right to it because we have a couple of special guests with us today. Victoria and Grant are past clients of Green Group Real Estate, and they're young investors. So they started at a really young age investing in real estate and building wealth for their futures. And more than anything, I just want to dive into the mindset behind what makes that possible. Like, what was their upbringing to start get those wheels spinning and thinking long term as opposed to just being in the moment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is going to be a good one. I'm excited for this conversation. And let's get right to it. But actually, before we start, anybody that has any questions or comments for us, for Grant, for Victoria, feel free to leave a comment down below. We'll be watching the comments as we go. If we happen to miss it, then we'll be sure to go back and answer any questions that you have. So please ask us questions. We love interaction. We love interaction and hearing what you guys are thinking and what's on your minds. So without further ado, let's bring Victoria and Grant on screen. This is our first time having 4 people on screen.
Yeah,
it's a momentous day. So welcome, Grant. Welcome, Victoria. We are super excited to have you guys here today. You probably heard my introduction, just young investors, mindset. And let's just start off with, just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Victoria, take it away.
Awesome. I'm Victoria Geiger. I'm originally from Corvallis, Oregon, but I recently graduated from George Fox University May of 2019 with an accounting and finance degree. I was a track athlete all 4 years, so have kind of a competitive nature there. And I reside in Newburgh, Oregon with my husband and our adorable golden doodle right now.
I would agree with that adorable golden doodle part. We've hung out on many Zoom conferences.
Yeah.
Grant, how about you?
I went to George Fox as well. Graduated in 2017. Recently got married to my wife, Samantha. We're celebrating our 1 year here real soon.
Awesome.
I played college football at George Fox, played quarterback all 4 years. Loved every moment of it. And also have that competitive streak. And been investing pretty much ever since I got out of college, starting with house hacking and background in structural engineering. I graduated with a degree in civil, but I'm actually currently working as a loan officer for Academy Mortgage. So it's been a great transition. So.
Cool.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Annie, why don't you kick us off? What's on your mind? What questions do you have?
Well, so I'm just really curious, it sounds like the two of you at least have some things in common, just being athletes and really sounds like having a heart for investing. So where do you think your investing mindset came from?
They are brothers and sisters, by the way. So
you are?
Yes.
That competitive nature, I guess,
it's in the DNA.
Yes.
Okay.
Competitive childhood.
Yeah.
I really have Victoria to thank for, kind of getting me started. I was a sophomore at Fox, and she was a senior in a personal finance class. A teacher by the name of Mr. Peterson, who really got us both started. Recommended the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay. Started learning about assets versus liabilities. And really just kind of took off from there. So
yeah, that's awesome. So inspired by your teacher, reading some really inspiring literature that kind of got you kickstarted. And so what was each of your first investment that you would that comes to mind? I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be something big, but like, what was the first thing that you invested in?
Yeah. My first investment.
Victoria.
Okay.
Is it a lemonade stand or just kidding?
Yeah. Well, growing up, I always had a lot of business ideas. I was constantly like, oh, we could do this. I actually came up with this whole idea. I love dogs. So of just having our own golden retriever puppy business. I think I was in 5th grade. So just always thinking of businesses. And so my mind just thinks like that. So when real estate came across the scene, it was like, well, that makes sense. And it clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about you, Grant?
Oh, cut out there for a second.
Oh.
Yeah, really.
What was your first investment?
Started with right out of college when I started my first job in engineering. Just started with a term, I don't know, very common, but house hacking. I bought a townhouse and had 4 bedrooms and rented out 3 of them to college guys I knew. And that was kind of really my first foray into estate investing, kind of get my feet wet that way.
That's awesome.
Tell me a little bit about that. So you brought these friends in, they're renting rooms from you, you're paying the mortgage. Do you remember, or do you know what the mortgage was and how much you were bringing in income?
So it was in an HOA. The mortgage was between PITI, it was like $1,403, another $330 for an HOA fee. Still have the property today. I moved out when I got married. So it's about like $1,740 roughly.
Okay.
Before operating expenses. While I was living there, renting out the master, the bonus, and one of the singles, I was in one of the other singles. I want to say it was bringing in about $2,200 just rent by the room. So each guy had his own lease, so they're only responsible for $400 to $450 worth a month.
Okay. Awesome. So it was cash flowing right off the bat then, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Cash flow is the name of the game. I talk with a lot of investors that, and everybody has different philosophies and different ideas. You know, my idea of an investment is that it's going to make you money. You're going to get a return on your investment. And I know that some people talk about buying investment properties for the tax benefits and not worrying so much about the income. And I think that's always just a good starting point, is like, are you going to see a return on your money? So awesome job. Good job making that happen. That's a great first investment. What about now that you're out of that property? How much is it making?
Sorry, what was that? Say that one more time, Andy.
So now that you moved out, you got married, you moved in with your wife, you're still renting that property out. So that one extra bedroom, how much are you renting for now?
That's another $425 just renting out my room. So I think the total right now is about $2,550. And a lot of people, when talking about cash flow, they'll say gross income minus PITI, and they'll call that cash flow. Mm-hmm. I'm typically underwrite my deals very conservatively. I set aside another 15% for operating expenses. So I'm setting aside 5% for capital expenditures like roof, siding, furnace, AC, big expenses that only come up once in a while. 5% for maintenance, so fixing a sink or just basic cleaning expenses, and then another 5% for vacancy. In case we have a tenant leave, you have to be able to, you can have quote unquote cash get sucked up real quickly if you don't have a tenant in place.
So you're setting aside approximately, is it about 25%?
What was that? 5%?
Right, so you're setting aside approximately 25% then?
Approximately 15%. So the 15% is broken into 5% CapEx. Got it. 5% maintenance, percent vacancy. And so anything beyond that is what I consider cash flow. So for this deal in particular, it's cash flowing about $420 to $430 a month.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Next question is I think we got where did your investment mindset come from? Was this just something that you guys feel like you were born with? Did your parents instill some of this at an early age?
No, honestly, when I came home from my high school personal finance class and I was sharing like, oh, you could do this, like, let's buy one, or kind of just really excited about, my parents were like, wow, like what? Like, it wasn't the way they were raised. And so it was a whole new world. So that's when I got on the phone with Grant and I was like, you got to look at this and explore this and read these books. And now our family's like, wow, that's cool. Now we've a while. So.
Awesome. So Grant mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was one of the first books that I read regarding investments. It's a super easy book to read. It's very story-like, and it's very good for just changing the way that you think more than anything. Because I think that's ultimately where it starts, is a lot of us aren't taught this stuff. And so like you guys came across something and it stuck and you took action on it. So congratulations on taking action, but that's what it takes. Victoria, you mentioned other books. Were there any other books besides Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah, Millionaire Real Estate Investor. That's one of my favorites. That one is super good. I would say Richest Man in Babylon is a good mindset book. All of those, they're great.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yep. I keep it right behind me all the time.
Nice. Awesome. So why real estate? I'm sure you could probably give us a lot of information that you've read in all of those great books, but why personally for each of you, what draws you to real estate?
I think the first thing is it's just fun. Every transaction's a little bit different, and it's kind of, it brings out the competitive nature. You talk about Friday Night Lights kind of mentality. It feels like that feeling when you're in a transaction, you're making the numbers work. That's just fun. But I think it's also just a way, owning real estate is a way to also give back to your community. A lot of our renters are college students. So it wasn't long ago that we were in college. We know what it's like. So being able to give back and support the college community is really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Grant, what about you? Awesome. Why real estate?
It's great to be able to provide housing to students, like Victoria said. I mean, we're primarily looking for cash flow. We never account for appreciation when we run the numbers, because that's literally just icing on the cake if that does happen. I mean, it's passive income. Someone else is paying down your loan. And I mean, real estate has a proven track record, great asset for building wealth. And as Victoria and I are both always saying, success leaves clues. So that was just kind of the next logical asset class to jump into.
That's awesome. I love it.
I know at some point along the line, and I'm probably going to get this quote all wrong, but I do believe this, so maybe I just made it up. But more wealth has been created through real estate than any other investment vehicle in the history of the world. Don't know where it came from. I 100% believe it. And if you go back historically, which Grant mentioned, historically, it's a solid investment. Does real estate go up and down in value? Of course it does. But historically, long-term, over the past 100 years, you invested in a $20,000 home, 70 years ago. That home is probably going to be worth about $400,000 today, 500, who knows, a lot more. So if you buy 5 or 10 or 20 of those, which I know investors that own 25, 28 single family properties, free and clear. Could you imagine being in a position where you own 28 investment properties free and clear? It's just cash flowing. Do you have some expenses and maintenance? Of course. And you guys are starting at such a young age that it's like, that is something that is 100% doable for you guys. You guys realize that, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that actually leads me to my next question then, is just your overall philosophy. What is your philosophy and what's your game plan, your end goal?
Yeah. I think right now we're starting small we've gotten some units, and I think eventually getting into more multifamily, potentially commercial. But right now our niche is single family. Grant has multifamily right now. And so I think growing that and continuing to just get more units. And that's the long-term game plan for probably the next 10 years.
Do you have a specific goal in mind or a specific plan, not just investing small, starting small, moving to commercial or multifamily, but like specific? Do you have a specific plan?
Yeah, I think for us, plan-wise is more, we look at the passive income that it's generating. And if that covers the lifestyle that we want to have, that means that we've reached the goal that we, with our real estate, if that makes sense.
So let me make sure. So basically, if the cash flow coming in is covering your cost of living.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. When do you anticipate being there?
Yeah. Conservatively, maybe 8 to 10 years. Okay. But we'll see what happens.
How do you define your cost of living?
Yeah. Just from.
I mean, are you like budgeting for fancy handbags or?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I take that into consideration of just kind of what's the lifestyle? Do I want to be traveling? Do I want to, what kind of freedoms do I want to have? And just putting numbers against that. From my finance background in college of kind of learning, hey, this is your what it's going to take for you to live. And so my husband and I have had lots of conversations. I do have a little bit of expensive taste, so maybe there's some things there, but
man, you are my hero. 8 to 10 years. Whew.
I love it. And that's why you guys are here today.
That's right.
Because I think that this philosophy or mindset, or even it becomes a way of life. You guys would probably agree with that, is different. So I don't think that the average person thinks that it's attainable, and it really is. It's attainable for everybody. It comes down to, number one, having a plan, and number two, executing on the plan. That's it. It's a simple 2-step process. Come up with a plan, execute on the plan, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. There's obviously more to it than that, but it all starts right there. So what else do you have, Annie?
Well, I'm curious. Grant, is your philosophy pretty much the same as Victoria's, or you guys follow that same trend?
We have a little bit of the same trend. We're both on buy and hold rentals. I know in real estate, it's very easy to get shiny object syndrome. It's like you see HDTV with the flipping and different directions. I really try to niche down into family and small multifamily right now. And really just continue to build my business in that arena and maybe potentially move up into multifamily. I don't want to just get units for time's sake or for money's sake, or just say I have a bunch of units. I want to buy myself time freedom. And as Victoria says, the goal is to equal and exceed our passive income, equal and exceed our monthly expenses. And I mean, before you can even jump into real estate, Victoria and I have also mentioned personal finance books. Like, you have to be able to build a personal or a financial foundation before being able to launch into real estate. Because if you don't have that area of your world in order, things can very easily go awry when you go to invest in real estate. So if you're investing from a position of financial strength, you're setting yourself up that much more for success.
So it sounds like everything is very calculated. Like you've calculated, you've pinpointed down what your target market is, exactly how long you plan to keep these properties, what the expectation that you're getting from these properties. And then you also know your long-term game plan on how you gauge that success. So that 8 to 10 years of being able to cover your cost of living through real estate, which is just, I mean, fantastic that you have that eye so young. And so, well done. I'm very impressed.
We're talking to an accountant and an engineer.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that they've done some planning?
No. And I would say that it is definitely, that's in your DNA somewhere. So maybe it's skipped a generation. It sounds like you're roping mom and dad in. So
awesome.
That's awesome.
What tips would you give to new investors, somebody that like the idea's just been rolling around in their head for a while, and they just, for whatever reason, and this happens to everybody, we get these ideas in our head and we just don't execute, we don't take action on them. What are some simple steps that people can do to put themselves in a position to create more wealth through real estate in their life?
First of all, I would say educate yourself. There's lots of books. I mean, you can see my bookshelf behind me. There's so many things and so many resources out there to read, free resources like biggerpockets.com. It's basically real estate social network. There's over 2 to 2.5 million real estate investors on that platform. There's always people willing to answer questions. There's many podcasts, like the Bigger Pockets Real Estate Podcast. They even have one for rookies just getting started out, Rookie Real Estate Podcast, and have a Bigger Pockets Money Podcast. So again, building that financial foundation. So 1, educate yourself. 2, learn to live on less and save and invest the rest. Again, building that financial foundation to be able to invest from a position of strength. 3, really learn your market. It's easy to say Oregon or California is really expensive and try and go out of market to maybe a Midwest town and try real estate investing at a lower point. But really see if you can start investing in your local area, get to know your market, practice running the numbers. And last, take action. That 4th step, take action. So many people get stuck in analysis paralysis. Your first deal, your first purchase isn't going to be a home run necessarily. It's not going to be the best one you ever do, but it's good to start somewhere. Hit a single. Just start with that. Get your feet wet. And I mean, because experience is really the best teacher. So just get started.
I love it. Well, number 2 that you talked about, learning to live on less. I think that's a very big challenge for most people. And more than anything, it's just a habit. It's just a habit that needs to be created and a consciousness of where am I spending my money and where are my priorities. So, as long as you're conscious of that and you have a plan around it, I think that like anything is possible. Anything is possible. And these are awesome tips. So number 1, education, Bigger Pockets. I listen to that all the time. I think that is an unbelievable resource coming from people that are in the trenches and creating wealth in their lives and just feeding your brain good stuff. Learn to live on less, learn your market, understand your market. You absolutely have to in order to at least smartly invest and take action. So those are great tips. Thanks, Grant. Victoria, what about you?
Yeah. I'd say definitely, educate yourself. But my other ones are meet with professionals, like meet your realtors in your area. I know any college student that has asked me, like, how did you start getting your first property or something? I just say, go and talk to the realtors, the mortgage lenders in the area and get to know them. And they're like-minded people with yourself. And you want to surround yourself with those types of people to learn from them. Because Grant and I have also found that other investors that are older than us are constantly wanting to help you and educate you because they know what it's like to be in your shoes. So just take advantage, or not take advantage, but just look at those opportunities to get to know people. But I think also if you're looking to buy a home, maybe as a primary residence, one of the things that my husband and I do is we make sure that the numbers work if it's going to be a primary, or if we were to, when we leave, if we wanted to rent it out when we left. So that's kind of our criteria. If we're buying rentals as investment properties, but if we move into a home, it needs to be something that can also be an investment property. So I think that's an easy way to get started too, is getting a primary residence and just starting with that and building your reserves and get going.
Yeah, I think, it's one of the top 5 most stressful and emotional things that people go through, right? Purchasing real estate. It sounds like you've managed to really take the emotion out of it. And so how do you do that? Just because you can see the long-term game? Or, I'm the type of person I know where my Christmas tree is going. So what advice would you give people, knowing that it is one of the most emotional investments that people go through?
Victoria, you want to jump on this one first?
Yeah, I think first just remember why you're doing it. So if you get in kind of like a, oh my goodness kind of situation, you kind of just take a deep breath, like, why am I doing this? And I think also, again, like surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, that are going to support you in your journey. Because I know if I start to get like that, I call Grant, and Grant is like, here you go. And like, and we balance each other out in that respect. If we do start to get emotional over something, it just helps to have those people in your corner.
Yeah, for sure.
Very important to have an accountability partner. Victoria is very much the entrepreneur and the creative, and I am more of the realist and the even more numbers driven person. But I mean, on our last purchase, we were buying a duplex, and with my wife, to live on one side and rent out the other, and it was an emotional roller coaster. And talking with Victoria, talking with one or two other investors, trying to understand there was an eviction, there were other things on that were outside of my control, and just to have an accountability partner, whether that's financial freedom or time freedom down the road, and maintaining that long-term mindset, to kind of try and take that emotion out of it. It's not always perfect, but
I love your thought process behind first-time home buyers as they buy their first home, just to live in.
Yeah.
But with the end in mind, thinking about it and running the numbers as an investment property, it's something that I've been coaching and teaching my clients on for years and years and years. And unfortunately, I'd say the vast majority of the people, they don't work on their finances enough. And that's the biggest challenge. Is you move into a primary residence and you live to your means, or maybe a little bit below, or maybe a little bit above. And you just don't do the planning for 4 years, 5 years down the road, where you're actually ready to move into another property, and you need that equity. That's what I see more often than not, is people need the equity to move up. And with proper planning over a 4 to 5 year period, anybody can save enough for their next down payment, turn the first home, into a rental, and truly start to create wealth and a cushion, or retirement, or college education, savings. Like, there's so many different things that you could use the income for, but great. I love that you guys brought that up. Awesome.
Yeah.
Annie?
Yeah.
Any final questions before we let these two youngsters get back to building wealth and moving and shaking and making stuff happen in the real estate world?
Well, what's the next house you're going to buy?
Good question.
Well, Victoria, you'll be buying sooner than I will. Go for it.
Yeah, we're looking for another primary. Now we've been in our house, and it's about ready to be another rental. We have it lined up, and now we're on to the next house hack. So that will
awesome.
Possibly be this summer. That's our goal. So
cool.
Well done. Yeah. Great.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So do you guys have any question? Were there any questions that I didn't ask that I should have, that you think are important for investors to be considering and thinking about?
We've covered most of the ground. I mean, I can't stress how much of a resource Bigger Pockets has been for me. My commute to and from work is filled with listening to that podcast. Another good book we didn't mention is Set for Life. It's not talked about a whole lot. It's gaining more traction. It's written by Scott Trent. Just talking about the financial portion and managing your expenses.
Okay, Set for Life. I have not heard of that one.
Me neither, but I wrote it down. So
starting out, it's meant for people in their 20s and 30s. So
got it.
Well, I'm a little outside that range, but I'm still going to read it.
I'm right there. I mean, I'm there. I'm going to read it, and it's meant for me. That book was meant for me. Ignore all the gray hair if you're watching this on video. Like, ignore all the grayness, maybe a few wrinkles. Victoria, how about you? Any final parting words from you?
I don't think so. I think just keep learning, keep growing. I mean, Grant and I are still growing a lot. We're still learning as we go too. So don't stop learning at all.
I love it. Good advice.
Yeah.
So, more than anything, our goal with this show is to just provide you with information to make smart choices, both now and in the future. And if you're thinking about the future and thinking about your future wealth and having a game plan, that is the first step. So start with a game plan, think about what your priorities are, and use us as a resource. That is absolutely why we're here. We want to help, whether you're ready to buy an investment property now or you just want to become educated. We truly are educators and have a heart to just do just that, to educate you guys and help you take positive steps forward on a regular basis. So we thank you for joining us today. Grant, Victoria, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to hang out with us for a few minutes and to help people get on the path to either home ownership or wealth creation. So congratulations to you guys. It's awesome.
Yeah, super inspiring.
Thanks for having us.
We are out of here. So we will see you next week. I should probably know this, but Victoria, what are we talking about next week?
Yeah, fix or flip.
Fix or flip. We're actually gonna be doing a series on investment. So we'll probably have 3 to 4 shows talking about investment and creating wealth, various different ways. So next week we're gonna talk about fix and flip, and we'll see if we can get a guest on here that will knock your socks off. So until next time, 12:30 next Monday. Have a great week ahead, and stay safe and stay healthy, friends.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.